forging of my destiny started with a divine paladin chasing a necromancer. This paladin and his companions had recently enjoyed a string of successes in their battle against the Black Ring, and the pompous fools didn't expect much trouble. They were wrong. The smiles were soon wiped off their smug faces when the necromancer summoned the demon overlord Samuel to his aid. A daring summoning indeed, as Samuel can be notoriously difficult to deal with. But unfortunately for me, in this particular case, the demon proved to be most useful. The divine paladins were no match for Samuel. I hear it took weeks to clean up the mess. However, he did leave one alive. He always leaves one alive. After all, torturing is no fun if the creature is already dead. He imprisoned the last paladin in his citadel, on the demon world of Nemesis, which is where Samuel likes to test out his latest imaginative torture methods on his long-term guest. And that's where I come in. Samuel is a very traditional demon. He takes loyalty very seriously. I belong to a very different camp. Being what I am, I wasn't really afraid when he caught me. After all, what could he do to me that hadn't been done already? Unfortunately, I underestimated him, an almost always fatal mistake when dealing with a demon. Of all the things, he decided to forge my soul to that of his paladin plaything. For a while, I slipped into unconsciousness. When I awoke, I too was in prison. That was easy to rectify, but that didn't solve my real predicament. There was something new inside my head, a burning itch of a presence, and I didn't like the feeling at all. It was time to introduce myself to the itch. Ah, Nemesis. This place was originally inhabited by the Renar, arrogant blue creatures that worshipped Ron. I remembered that their elders practiced drift running, which is all about opening doorways to other worlds. Our problem was, of course, that the demons had been very successful in wiping them out. One particular demon wasn't happy at all, something I could relate to. Having to do the bidding of a mere necromancer isn't a barrel of laughs, especially for a demon overlord such as Samuel, but it turned out to be a stroke of luck for us. The paladin might not be my ideal companion, but at least I was still alive, something I hadn't expected given the task of escaping from the Citadel. My companion deserved some credit for that. Besides, I was curious to see how my new soulmate would deal with Nemesis. I loathe necromancers. Being summoned by that jumped-up corpse molester was one of the most unpleasant things to have happened to me. I only hope I meet him again under different circumstances. I knew, however, that searching for the crystal fragments would be the key to our escape. It lifted my spirits somewhat to be closing in on the Renar. Given the carnage that the demons had caused among them, they had reason enough to be hostile towards strangers. Yet to us, they weren't. I was convinced we'd find a way to make them cooperate, and my companion was proving to be more resourceful than I had imagined. Asmodeus's invitation troubled me somewhat. He was reputed to be a mean, sadistic, and unreliable creature, but that was common of many demons. Not that I had anything against that, I just didn't relish being the focus of his attention. I only hoped my companion was going to keep showing signs of intelligence. Killing the Black Bishop was a very satisfying moment. It wasn't that the actual killing made me feel light-spirited, but also the knowledge that we were nearing our goal. Despite my companion's resourcefulness and pathetic attempts at bonding with me, I was growing frustrated by the curse. The Academy was a tomb. No real surprise there, as Asmodeus himself had taken care of the place. The deal with Anlokam demonstrated his admirable cunning. The Renar had been very stupid, but that was our fortune. The demons wouldn't invade the Academy, which was all the better for us. Soon we were going to learn the secret of rift running, and then we would be free, not only of each other, but also of Nemesis. My companion continued to be useful and brave, certainly for a human. But again, I was careful not to show too much pleasure. After all, I too have a reputation to think of. I am free. At last I have broken the bonds that have chained me for so long. I am finally released from that accursed world and back where I belong. I am home. But now you who have been beside me for so long, should know the truth of how this came to pass. My mentor, the so-called Divine One, threw a terrible curse upon my young self. I was doomed to wander Nemesis for the rest of my days, unless my mentor or one of his followers wished me to leave. A group of paladins who had been hunting down one of my devoted Black Ring members would provide the key to my escape. My follower, a dark necromancer, took the risky decision to summon the demon overlord Samuel to his aid. This particular demon is as subtle as a battle axe, and many times more deadly. He is, however, unquestionably stupid, a quality I've always found endearing in him, but this time he proved to be most useful. Samuel was as brutal as his reputation, and he killed all the paladins with ease. All apart from one, that is. Samuel always likes to take home a battlefield memento, and if that memento was still alive and kicking, then so much the better. It was this paladin who would provide the answer to freeing me from my prison. Samuel took that luckless character back to his citadel fortress on Nemesis, where he thought the paladin would make an ideal addition to his collection of pets, which he tortured and demoralized on a regular basis. It was then that a demon known as Asmodeus drew my attention to Samuel's new guest. Together, Asmodeus and I devised a plan to free me from Nemesis. Asmodeus broke the lock on the paladin's cell, and when they tried to escape, I was held responsible. All it took was a little convincing that soul forging would be an appropriate punishment. Weakened by the soul forging, both of us lapsed into unconsciousness. When I awoke, I freed myself from Samuel's primitive cell and killed the guards. The burning feeling in my head told me the soul forging had been successful. All that was left to do was for me to introduce myself to my new best friend, you. After I was first imprisoned on Nemesis, I spent much time with a race called the Renar, the elders of which had harnessed the ability to open rifts. Despite studying this rift running, my curse meant I could not just open a rift and travel through it. But if we could locate a Renar elder and travel through a rift together, the curse would be broken. Poor Samuel. It's not much fun being at the beck and call of a summoner, especially when you're a demon overlord and you've been made to leave a very promising torture session. But thankfully, Samuel was summoned away from us just in time. Otherwise, I would have been forced to reveal my real self and give him a good thrashing. I'm not sure what to make of my new companion. The relentless cheerfulness is somewhat irritating, but then it seems to work on some of the peons we've met. I have to admit a grudging respect for this paladin. They've aided me greatly in escaping the Citadel. Having to hold both my tongue and my form in the presence of the necromancer was even more difficult than it had been with Samuel. But I held firm, as I knew that his magic would help restore the crystal to its former glory, and when I had that in my hands again, my power would be complete. The Renar rebels seemed to be completely fooled by my disguise, the poor, gullible creatures. If only they knew who I really was, I doubt they'd be so accommodating. They are still just as proud and arrogant as I remember, and I've made a mental note to myself to let the demons know where this rebel group is hiding. Asmodeus was so desperate to get a look at how my companion and I were getting on that he invited us both to a meeting. I thought he was going to give me away, but he ended up presenting us with a doll of one of the Renar elders, my dear adopted sister. If we can break her curse, then she can open a rift for us. Ideally, I would have liked to avoid killing one of my most devoted followers, but unfortunately, he got in my way. With him out of the picture, it should clear the path to our goal. My companion's attempts to bond with me are almost touching, but this is not about making bonds, it's about breaking them, and I long to be free. It was most strange being back in the academy again. Asmodeus had clearly exploited my adopted sister's profound stupidity, and now the place was a tomb filled with familiar faces in spirit form. I was surprised that I felt absolutely no guilt when I saw them. I am not the boy I once was. The secret of riff running will soon be in my companion's hands. Although I already know how to use it, the power is useless to me in this world. I've almost gotten used to having this creature around. Perhaps I can show them the virtues of chaos in greater depth once we leave this world. The taste of freedom is sweet indeed. So many nights I have spent dreaming of destroying the one who imprisoned me, the one who extinguished the single candle of light in my life. I have become the darkness itself. Revenge will be mine.